Now to the UN's nuclear watchdog that voted today to end its probe into Iran's nuclear activities. This in turn paves the way for the nuclear deal with the Islamic Republic to be implemented, as Eli Hochenberg explains.
Tehran is off the hook. The United Nations nuclear watchdog approved a resolution Tuesday to end a probe into Iran's past nuclear activities, preparing the ground for the implementation of the historic accord reached between world powers and the Islamic Republic last July.
Completion of my assessment is an important step forward, but much work remains to be done. The IAEA will continue to undertake verification work in Iran, but in future, Iran will implement the additional protocol to its safeguard agreement with the agency, and will have powerful extra verification tools at our full disposal.
The IAEA's investigation did conclude that Tehran was engaged in nuclear-related actions up until 2003, some of those activities lasting up to 2009, but concluded that it has shelved its nuclear work ever since. Those findings, however, did not demoralize the six world powers, as only last week they called on the UN Atomic Agency to close the door on the probe, according to a document obtained by the news agency AP. But there is still some ambiguity regarding Tehran's nuclear efforts, as it has failed to offer clear answers on several investigations, and thus the final report by the IAEA recommends to keep following up on Iran's past and future nuclear activities. But even with opponents of the deal stressing there should be no moving forward without a full Iranian disclosure, the road to implementation of the nuclear deal is already paved. Tehran's envoy to the IAEA said that the Islamic Republic intends to complete the process of implementing the needed restrictions under the agreement within the next 2 to 3 weeks. Despite a long row of red flags raised on the nuclear agreement before, during, and after the negotiations, the final stages of its implementations are going full speed ahead, meaning the long isolated Iran will soon benefit from the lifting of sanctions. But one thing is for certain, the critiques of this accord will be eagerly waiting for Tehran to slip up.
Yes, and to make sense of all of this, we're joined now by Meir Javedanfar, Iranian politics analyst. Good evening, Meir.
Good evening, Ayman.
Well, today's decision to end the probe into Iran's nuclear activities is very significant, to say the least. Just recently, there was a report that Iran continued its nuclear aspirations late into the 2000s. Are critics right in saying that the West has let Iran off the hook?
They would be right in saying that if we were to do nothing afterwards, but we see that in fact, we're going to have the toughest inspections in the history of the international community, especially Western countries' dealings with Iran. Yes, I mean, the file has been closed. I personally think that it was a bit too over-ambitious to expect that Iran is going to bring some of its top secret scientists to be interviewed. I didn't think that's going to happen. But, and you know, some people expected Iran to say, okay, we were guilty, we lied. I didn't think that's going to happen either. So what we have here is that the international community proved that Iran had a nuclear program, that it was until 2009. Now, this chapter has been closed, but this is a chapter in a book, Ayman. And the book now, the next chapter is what happens if this time we have something, evidence that they are working on it, then we have a very, very strict monitoring program.
Well, just on this topic, I want to join to our conversation Dr. Ari Nourizadeh, Director of the Center for Iranian and Arab Studies. He joins us from London. Dr. Zadeh, we are edging one step closer to the lifting of international sanctions on Iran. The implications must be much greater than we expect at the moment. What do you think Iran will look like in the future after the step was taken today?
First of all, let me say hello to you and my friend Meir and your viewers. Let me tell you, I agree totally with what Meir said. The dream of seeing Iran resuming its relation with the United States of America, that has been turned to a nightmare, because what Khamenei said, he blocked all the doors. Even when Rouhani went to New York, his intention was to meet President Obama, you know, incidentally in the corridor of United Nations. They summoned Rouhani back to Iran, telling him you should be here to receive of a martyr in Saudi Arabia, in Mecca. And when he went back, it took 3 days until they arrived. So therefore, it was just an excuse to summon Rouhani to Tehran. And then Khamenei blocked all the doors. That shows that as far as the Iranian leadership concerned, they just want to get over this book, as Meir said, to close it. And what's going to happen next, it's not quite clear. It just, we have to wait for the Iranian election, for assembly of expert election, and after that we may come to some sort of changes. We will see some sort of changes in Iran happening after that. But as far as the nuclear file concerned, both sides are interested to close it down. And Iran, within its commitment, did not cross any border, any red line. And as far as the other side concerned, the other side was very optimistic, very hopeful to bring back Iran to the international community. But it seems there are resentments, and it's the Iranian leadership which has no interest, especially after President Putin's visit to Tehran and some sort of, I wouldn't say temporary marriage, but sort of marriages took place between them.
Yes. Mayor, you hear what Dr. Nourizadeh is saying, that this question of red lines is really significant. Do you also believe that there have not been any red lines crossed, especially recently by Iran?
Ayatollah Khamenei on June 23rd, which is almost exactly 3 weeks before the deal, set 3 bright red lines publicly for the nuclear negotiation team regarding sanctions, regarding the duration of sanctions. He said we don't want anything. 10 years is a lifetime. We want less than that. We see sanctions. The duration of the deal it's longer than that. He said sanctions should be simultaneous. That the West does something, then Iran does something. We see the first section of the deal is that Iran first has to live by its commitments, and then the West has to take its steps. And also he said there is to be no military sites to be included as part of the deal, as part of inspections. Again, that red line is being crossed. Both sides have had to cross their red lines. This is the issue here. And I think when Iran sets a red line, the only red line in the entire history of the Islamic Republic which they are not willing to cross is one which threatens the survival of the regime. Anything other than that, when you hear the words red line, there's at least a 50% chance that it's a negotiation position.
And Dr. Nourizadeh, briefly, would you care to elaborate on what Mayor Javedanfar just told us about the successful survival of the regime? Is this still a possibility in Iran, or is the regime under threat?
Well, I'm sure if you speak to the Iranian people, to man in the street, they are not happy of the situation. But there is no other alternative. What's happening in Syria and Iraq discouraged Iranian for going to street and asking for the changes. But eventually we will see that if the West is successful in dealing with Daesh, if Daesh is gone, then I'm sure you'll see another green movement in Iran. The green movement is not dead, it's there.
Yes.
But, in a sort of winter sleeping.
Yes. Dr. Ali Nourizadeh joining us from London, thank you very much. And of course, Mayor Javedanfar, thank you for being with us tonight.